Hey there, Bingo Ragers. February 22nd, early in the morning. The skull mask, a monochrome wash of gray, and I created the highlights by distressing the paint job, light sandpaper, a very fine sandpaper. That's how we get this effect. Tonight I'm putting up a new canvas. Good idea to use eye and ear protection. Listening to Noam Chomsky on the audio. The TV Ontario podcast, Big Ideas.
But again, it was a different course. Take a look at the way it was designed. It brings about. But if you're fetishist, there means there's kind of a deep on how corporations are run. It's called corporate, and they can work out techniques like, say, stock should conceal short-term gain, and you can imagine the word. Well, there have been efforts to try to get this to be more transparent. During the period when New Deal regulations were maintained, there were no financial crises. The system went along smooth proceeding but the rich and powerful make out fine for the reasons I mentioned. The public pays, rich benefit. No, not very. Less and less so under modern forms of state capitalism. Adam Smith, for example, he recognized and discussed what would happen to Britain if the masters adhered to the rules of sound economics. That it wouldn't happen. So as if by an invisible hand, England would be spared the ravages of economic rationality. Missing externalities, that is the effect of the transaction on others. In the case of financial institutions, the externality that's dismissed is systemic risk, the risk that the whole system will crash as a result of some failed transaction. You don't take that into account when you make a transaction. Well, in that case, the taxpayer can come to the rescue, make sure that those who profit from risky transactions will be saved. But that's not always an option, and the consequences can be severe. In fact, perhaps awesomely severe. So nobody's going to come to the rescue if the environment is destroyed. We are conducting massive propaganda campaigns to convince the population that anthropogenic global warming because of human interference, is a liberal hoax. And that's succeeding. Is a climate change denier. And they've already been acting on those assumptions. They've been cutting the limited expenditures there are for dealing with environmental problems.
That man is the most cited academic scholar in the world. And you probably never heard of him.
It's fucking awesome. I love nootropics. I've been taking nootropics before I got involved with Alpha Brain. I've taken a bunch of them. They work. There's vitamins that I believe in a lot of things that I don't sell. I think it's very important to take a lot of nutritious supplements in that. Like a first order. After that, you got to pay full price. The codename Rogan apparently is only good for one time. I should probably try to have that change, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the way the video looks?
Is there a way that you can shut this music off where it doesn't do this for 10 minutes?
What is this?
That's my fade out.
This is terrible. Brian, we gotta stop. It's for real.
Disney.
For real, it's really obnoxious.
Alright, there you go.
So was that?
Is this guy gonna tear me a new asshole? Or
What?
I don't know. You know what I mean? A little bit of that
Oh.
fucking little shit was in the back of my head. So I'm like, nah. But you know what? I'll tell you what it was. It was I had a chat with Carson Daly the other day. It's really fucking impossible to rig too because of the way that dome is, the retracting dome part. Those rigging points. So if they wanted to get, I didn't see the UFC show there, but like if they wanted like lights on top of the ring, well they can't just. No, I've never spun a fucking record in my life. So as a matter of fact,
you actually don't like being called
DJ mixer.
You don't like that phrase?
How can I say I don't like it? It's so generalized that you kind of have to welcome it. It's like, I'm not a comedian. I'm a fucking laugh technician.
Right. Well, that's always good.
Well, I understand it because no one ever.
Right. It's
it
shitty.
would just be an extra shame if it was all.
Well, the only thing that would help, if anything, is that maybe it might influence some people to avoid those particular drugs. There's no happy ending Coke stories. Because nobody is like, you know, it wasn't until I started doing coke that I really got my shit together.
It won't come out at less than 3 Coronas.
Come out tonight. No.
Record store?
Cassettes were the bomb.
Hey.
Cassettes were everything.
Did you get Heineken's? Or did you just get all this gay Mexican beer? How did that happen, man? Don't you ever fucking say that's a wild, man. That's crazy. You know how many people are screaming at their computer right now? A while? To go from 4 years of creating music to all of a sudden be selling out the Rogers Center, that's amazing.
Yeah, okay, I mean, there's definitely a music element in that, of course.
Yeah.
You know,
No
since I was
doubt.
8, you know, my parents put me in, like, piano boot camp after school, so
Would be easily worth it. Small ways. So, for example, when he wrote that the principal architects of policy are the masters of mankind, as he called them, and they ensure that state policy serves their interest, however grievous the effect on others, including the domestic population, but primarily the victims of what he called their savage injustice abroad. In the richest country in human history, 20% of the population qualify for food stamps. For much of the population, manufacturing workers, for example, and in fact their actual circumstances are much worse than in the Great Depression. And in what President Eisenhower called the most strategically important area in the world, maybe the Middle East, a stupendous source of strategic power, and probably the richest economic prize in the world in the field of foreign investment. Those are the words of the State Department in the 1940s. A poor peasant, you know, not somebody from the Skull and Bones at Yale, and won the election on real issues, serious issues like control over resources, cultural rights, how to handle problems of justice in a complex multi-ethnic society. Well, that's democracy. You have to look pretty hard to find anything like that in the industrial world. And if you look at the business press, where people talk more openly, executives were euphoric. They said they'd been marketing candidates like toothpaste ever since Reagan, but 2008 was the greatest achievement. Profits come mostly from complex financial manipulations, actions that have little or if any social or economic utility. Another factor in the financialization of the economy was that the rate of profit in production was declining. That's within a global trade system that is very carefully designed to set working people in competition with one another worldwide, along with a very high level of protection for wealth and unprecedented rights for investors. Say the Bush tax cuts 10 years ago, which are a huge burden on the economy, but they were designed so that over the years, the benefits would shift towards the rich. You're supposed to care about it. That's what Social Security is. And that's a bad idea. You're supposed to look after yourself, not care about other people. Social Security is dangerous. There's a large-scale attack on public education, and it's based on the same principles. You can privatize, and the same techniques are being used. Defund it so it doesn't work. Complain about how it doesn't work. Privatize it, gets worse. But then you've undermined social solidarity, and it's fine for the wealthy anyway. They'll get it anyway. They can pull out, of course. But if they stay there, they have to maximize short-term gain. If they don't do it, they'll be out, and somebody else will come in who does do it. So it's an institutional property, not an individual one in the United States. The one that was propelled into power, environment, he
say something like that he said.
But I feel like every impression that I do is either an old black woman or like a Jewish kind of babushka. Hard in the supermarket that like people gave me like a wide berth because you were doing your Harvey Keitel. No, it wasn't Harvey Keitel. It was and then it wasn't Joey Pants either. It was the little one from.
What the fuck?
I guess you know what? We've just decoded the Pesci impression. Whereas walking, it's 2 syllables for 1 syllable word. No.
Yes.
And with Pesci, you gotta run out of breath.
Run out of breath.
He was
so
in the Civil War. Let me show you my musket wound in the leg.
Still not healed.
Oh, of course not. They used ketchup as an adhesive. And he mixes his words up. Is it a blunt?
It's not a blunt. I'm not a pot smoker.
Just
I don't smoke dope, no.
Just rail after rail.
Just...
You and Julie Chen just chopping them up.
Oh, yeah.
Chop, chop, chop,
I just
chop.
walk around the butt in my hand and chew it like a fucking Slim Jim.
Get out of here!
Sarah,
This is
it's the wrong, you said the wrong Gilbert.
Sarah, get
no, I don't even remember when I took that photo, but it predates by a year at least.
Great photo, very sexy, very cool.
It says something.
Great podcast, girl on guy, everyone.
Every day she comes out, she goes, I don't got nothing. I don't got nothing but a show. I don't know what to do, I got no jokes. Then she just comes and drops a nuclear bomb every fucking day. She really is. She's so funny.
A fascinating stuff. Almost like a destitute, like a beaten Willie Loman-esque. And then when she hits the mic, it's like a flower opening. You're like, what was that? I got nothing. I got nothing.
Taking these carbon buckyballs and yet from some light through nature of things, was able to, so for a human being, are involved, and you have to start taking it into account on, well, you can't know exactly where the detector was, you can't know exactly where the neutrino was, exactly.
You can know the distance, you can know where the particles are hitting, which I guess is key for the neutrinos, but it's that timing which tells you whether they're moving faster than the speed of light that is really hard to get rid of.
And it's through this combination of measuring the amount of energy that leaves and measuring the weight of the box after and knowing the moment that the energy moved. Well, that's a delta E from knowing how much energy came out. That's a delta T from the clock. You should be able to get all of this perfectly accurately just by weighing the box, part of a whole. And at the end of the day, it means that even if we do know where every particle in the universe is, we don't know where they're going and we can't predict the future.
But I think that's a fantastic example of this theory because, as you said, he went on record a bunch of times and spent a lot of his final years attempting to come up with a theory of everything and trying to, I know, think through the implications of quantum mechanics.
Together can be smarter than any one individual when it comes to figuring out what's true and what's not. Right. So here, luckily, we're proxy.
Recommend it to your friends. Every little bit helps. Click support the show on our website to see some suggestions. The show was edited by Preston Gibson. AstronomyCast is produced at Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville.
This is Philosophy by an editor to describe a collection of his writings that we now think of as Aristotle's metaphysics. Meta means after or beyond, and there is speculation that the editor meant to deter students from reading Aristotle's metaphysics until after they'd read his physics. But the term is notoriously hard to define.
Almost, it's the philosophical study of reality. Of course, many disciplines study reality, but the main difference from science is that the philosophical study of reality is a priori. That means that it's independent of observation. There are no real experimental methods that could settle that. And then there's a big divide. There's certain things, generalizations are just accidentally true. One thing just happens to follow another, but not for a causal reason. And there are others that seem to happen for a causal reason. So
causation breaks down if these guys refuse to investigate certain events. So I'll have this piece, MediaTrap, for the Zzorhn And BingoRage Show. I have to, there you go. This piece is called MediaTrap, I had painted it for last week's show, which was about media and the technological apocalypse theme. The theme of this painting was inspired by our increasing presence as videocasters and podcasters. We've become personal broadcast nodes for information, content production. But I think it goes beyond that. I think we have to become a public sphere that has political significance.